and welcome back to the Weapons of Mucus Destruction. I'm your lovely co-host, David, joined alongside here by Dane, who is a little worse off than me now.
Nasal talks over here. Yes, I'm on the latter end of getting sick. Started getting sick last week. I'm like day 6 now, so things are starting to clear up, but I apologize in advance for that and any intermittent coughing throughout this episode.
And what the hell's going on here? Cold flu season was during the winter, I thought. Like we're just this side of summer.
But David, as the natural contrarians
we only get sick when we want to, right?
When we want to, and in the opposite time that everybody else
exactly, because we don't follow the rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm healthy all year long until I have a newborn in the house that is dependent upon me not being sick. That's when I choose to get sick.
Well, I hear they're little bundles of disease. No offense, she's cute as a button, but I feel like you're gonna have it gets worse when they go to school because all those little other booger eaters are gonna be along there, licking each other's faces and doing God knows what.
Well, 2 things.
Sharing things that
She's
they don't
not
have immunity.
sick, so I can't blame her for this.
No, we can blame her.
And second, she won't be going to those indoctrination camps. She's going to be homeschooled.
Oh, that'll be nice and awkward for the rest of the
Which also
family.
has the added benefit, like you're saying, of a decreased disease vector. So.
Well, then you got to also think, are you immunocompromising her? Like, because she's
I'm
not
going to send her outside and roll her around in the mud, stuff
make her
like
eat
that.
dirt?
Yeah. Go out to the Everglades every once in a while and toss her in, preferably at night.
Yeah. And if she comes back, she's earned her warrior stripe. She comes back wearing the skull of an alligator and a fucking python belt.
We just gained Casey Anthony as a follower.
I like it.
I like what these guys are about.
There goes my body dump spot number 1, Dane. They're going to be on to me now.
Yep.
For God's sake. All right. Before we go waste any more wind that we don't have. Meme destruction for the week. Women are the fairer sex. Must not have meant Queen Elizabeth, Mary Queen of Scots, or any Latin chick. I'm sure that'll go over like a turd in a punch bowl.
Yeah, we're canceled AF.
All right. Culture Corner. Well, Latins have a notorious bad temper. And I think both of us know and maybe a couple members of the back end of this podcast would know, hell hath no fury like a Latina woman that you said something. Yeah, she didn't look pretty enough that night.
Be nice to them at all times, please.
Yes.
Please. Unless you for your own
wake
health
up with
and safety.
Butter knife sticking out of your chest.
Yes.
Anyway, Culture Corner. Another choking on a New York City train. At least this time, the boys in blue weren't involved.
I feel like that's a daily occurrence, though.
Yeah.
So another choking doesn't really.
Yeah.
This one you've probably heard about, though.
Yeah. Epstein.
Go ahead, David.
Thanks.
Don't mind me. Just talk over the cough, and Chris will work his magic in post.
Well, you look like you're about to vomit over there. So I was like, do we need a puke bucket? Anyway, hide your kids, hide your wife, because the government out here claiming all y'all fools.
Yeah, especially the kids part.
Yeah. Gross, but actually not factually inaccurate.
Accurate, yes.
All right, main topic.
You'll find out more later.
For the love of God, would you pick a lane? Who do you want to piss off? Do you want to piss off the liberals? Do you want to piss off the Republicans? Do you want to piss off the libertarians? Do you want to piss off the world? What are you? Pick a side. Are you just the Joker? Is Elon the Joker?
I think he is.
Yeah,
that's pretty fair assessment, yeah.
I mean, okay, a billionaire Joker. This couldn't possibly end up purely.
He is fond of saying that, I think he had just recently a tweet that said something like, the most entertaining outcome is the likeliest. That is very Joker-esque, if I might say. And what would be more entertaining than melding the characters, at least in the billionaire sense, melding the characters of Batman and Joker into a real-world supervillain? That is an entertaining outcome.
A super anti-hero villain?
Yeah. Yeah.
That seems about right.
That seems to be what he's going for once you find out who he just put as the new CEO of Twitter, but we'll talk about that more in the show.
Stick around to find out more. Well, after all that, Dane, and while we still have a little bit of wind left, you want to jump in?
Let's do it. Welcome to Weapons and Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 145, which can be found at which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/145. You can find the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. You can get the videos on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. I believe the entirety of this episode will be up on YouTube because our talking about the no-no topic in the main part of the segment is very, very small. A very minute portion of what we're going to be talking about there. So I don't think they should run afoul of the YouTube censors, but you never know. You can also link up with us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can join us at the private members-only Facebook page at $5 a month of support. And then you can also link up with us on Tribel and Flote. I don't even call it Tribal anymore. It's just Tribel in perpetuity.
I'm creating a movement, Dane.
Your work is complete.
Ye my minions. Anyway.
So today's meme
Let's be misogynistic.
Yeah.
Let's be toxic. You want to get toxic, Dane?
No, I stay toxic.
I'm oozing. I'm oozing
so
over
toxic.
here. Oh.
Clearly, look at me. Nobody wants to be around me right now, and I chalk that up to my toxicity.
Don't you know that you're toxic? Yeah, I'm a Britney Spears fan, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Which makes you less toxic, right?
Yeah, I support women.
Good.
But don't let them know that.
So anyway, today we are talking about the meme, not a funny picture, but the meme that's out there. And you hear this all the time, usually from feminist circles, but even like public intellectuals like Steven Pinker and stuff say stuff like this, that, well, wouldn't it be great if more world leaders, or in the more radical versions of this argument, is if all world leaders were female? Because if women were ruling the world, there would be no more war, right? The meme is that women are somehow less violent, less susceptible to doing terrible things with immense power. And although on the individual level, the differences in violence levels between men and women might bear out when you look at the statistics of how many men are in jail for violent crimes versus how many women, it is disproportionately men. So that's true. So there is, as with all memes, a bit of superficial plausibility to the claim that if women were controlling the world, leading all of the major countries of the world, or hell, all of them for that matter, that there would be less war. But as with all memes and their superficial plausibility, if you scratch the surface just a little bit, you find that it's completely baseless bullshit, and it's nothing more than misandry dressed up as feminist progressivism. And we are here, if nothing else, to destroy memes for you, our dear listeners and viewers, and tell you that that meme, much like the rest of them, is complete and utter bullshit.
Well, again, it starts with a big old, grand assumption that, an entire group of humans are completely infallible and will always ever do good, and the other side will always ever be bad, and all the other side that they'll ever want to do is just evil. That's why we need to vote in more of the other side, which are so good. By the way, before we even get into it, Hillary Clinton, as I believe is on her Twitter bio feed, she identifies as she, her, and was the defense secretary, under Obama? And how many wars?
No, Secretary of
of
State, I think.
Oh, Secretary of State. Well, that's pretty high up there too. Yeah.
Well, it's the highest cabinet position there is. Yes.
Oh, well, shit.
And yes, they are engaged. Their chief function is engaged in diplomacy. So if you want to stop war, you have a good Secretary of State that negotiates non-war. But when she says, we came, we saw, he died, about the invasion of Libya, seems pretty violent.
Yeah, it seems pretty, callous too.
Exactly.
Pretty lacking of emotion. And then how many wars other than the Gaddafi overthrowing were we involved in during that time? I think were we still in Iraq at that time, or had we already?
We were. I can't remember how many new wars. Well, first of all, there's two parts. How many new wars were started while Obama was in office, and how many of those were started while Clinton was his Secretary of State? Because she wasn't the entire time, just the first term, I believe.
I thought it was the last term.
No, I think it was the first.
Where was she at the second time?
She either stepped down. Well, she either stepped down or whatever.
Started her campaign of
to gear up for 2016, right at the end of his second term.
How did that work out?
Not well, if I recall.
Anyway, enough of that aside. So basically, she didn't spread world peace, and she was just right under the president. Correct?
Right. Right, exactly. Yeah.
So.
And that's just in our own times.
And by the way, she had been a senator too for
cheerleading every single potential invite
decades,
into war
maybe,
by the
not
U.S. military
close to it.
industrial complex.
Right. So exactly. So, and there's still other women in Congress that have a say that vote pro-war. So apparently they aren't just peace-loving flower children that want to spread love, and they actually do care about making a buck off of another person's death. Dane, please continue.
So I hear you, listener, viewer. Dane, David, we understand you guys don't like this meme. But give us the facts. Okay, here are the facts. Some U.S. experts analyzed mainly European kings and queens between the years of 1480 to 1913, covering 193 reigns in 18 different countries. And what they looked at is basically, was the leader male or female? How long was their reign? How many years of their reigns were they in war, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they could generate a number value as to whether or not it was more likely that having a female ruler meant that you would not be in war. And again, as with most of these memes, again, that have superficial plausibility, but don't hold up when you look at them for a nanosecond longer than, it takes you to read a buzzword bumper sticker, is that countries that had female rulers were 39, I think it was like 38.8, but we'll just round up, 39% more likely to be at war. Now, couple objections I can already anticipate from the feminazis on the other side. They're going to say, first of all, this is very ethnocentristic of you to only look at European kings and queens. Well, okay, fine. I guess if you want to do your own study and look at all kings and queens throughout all the time, feel free to give us the results on that. I have a feeling these numbers are going to hold up, but obviously I haven't done the study. So, do that and report back to us. Second thing is you're going to say, well, yeah, the women were forced into war because all of their male counterparts that were running the other countries while they were the queens wanted to, test their mettle because they were viewed as weak women, rulers, and they wouldn't be able to. So they just had to defend themselves. So this is all self-defense. And again, there's probably some plausibility to that. There probably were some motivations by male rulers to attack female rulers because they perceived them as weaker or whatever. But if that were the case, then that would mean that the women were not instigating any of the wars at all. Or when they were challenged by their male adversaries, they wouldn't engage in diplomacy to stave off war, right? Because the claim is they're less violent and don't want to go to war. So even if they have a foreign adversary that wants to attack them, you would think they would pursue every single potential diplomatic route possible short of war. But that's not exactly how it worked out. So regardless of what the motivations were, both internally and externally in countries ran by women throughout history, again, from 1480 to 1913, the simple fact remains that you are 39% more likely. If you're just a little pissant citizen in one of those countries, you are 39% more likely to have your sons, your daughters, or yourself be tossed off into some conflict to get your head lopped off with an axe. 39% more likely for that to happen if you had a female ruler than a male ruler. That is not what we are told is the truth about history. Men are violent, terrible, evil, awful, no good, very bad beings. They're all toxic and misogynistic, and we need women running the show. That meme should be thoroughly and finally put to rest.
Hey, how do you like that? Now, were the Genghis Khans that, had an impact on the CO2 levels during the time that he killed so many people? Sure. Were there Roman centurions that would just wipe out entire villages, rape, pillage, and plunder? Yeah. But you know what? Just saying that, come back to the table, okay? We don't want to fight anymore, all right? We're on the same side. You guys are human just like us. You have your own stuff. We have our own stuff. We're working through it. We're trying to become better people. Just let's all treat each other as equals, but different. How's that sound, Dane? What a come together moment.
That's exactly right. Despite what the feminazis will try to take from this clip and say that David and I are misogynists for pointing out this study that we didn't even do. Yes, David's exactly right. The point we are making here is not that men make better rulers than women or that men are somehow better to lead countries than women or anything of the sort. The point that we're making with this study is to get away from this premise that some segment of humanity, whether it be women, whether it be minorities, or any other sort of like smaller group, that they'll say, well, this group should have power and not that group because that group is evil and terrible and this group is saints. No human beings are saints. We are all cut from the same cloth. We have the same demons and angels within all of us.
Or maybe, if you want the power, do what Queen Elizabeth said and say, come and take it, bitches.
And so with that, the key word that David just used there is power. Is the point that we make on this podcast all the time, and we're just using this as our latest example to do it, is power is the problem. Male or female, black or white, rich or poor, fat or tall, or fat or skinny, tall or short, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you give a human being immense power, and then on top of that, give them the ability to call their fellow citizenry and to go shoot at some other guy halfway around the world that they've never met and probably have no personal beef with.
He didn't like my paella. Cut his head off.
That's going to have bad consequences. And
You're
that's
going to have a bad time.
Is
there's
too
pizza
much
when you
power.
French fry, you're going to have a bad time.
So reduce the power, reduce the incidence of violence and conflict, or at least make the incidence of violence less destructive overall to the species and the planet. And we're going to have a better time.
There you go. We'll be Happy Gilmore. All right. Culture Corner. So apparently, ex-Marine or current Marine?
I believe.
Ex-Marine choked out a African-American homeless person that was disturbing the peace.
Correct.
On a train in New York City.
Subway, I believe, yes.
Well, that's...
Well, I don't know if it's a subway or if it's, those ones that go around top, whatever those are.
I don't think there... Is there...
They have those in New York, yeah.
Yeah?
The above ground trains?
Oh, yeah, I guess they do. So some are tunnel... Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think it was a subway, though.
Yeah, subway. Okay, so it was a train underground. Fair enough?
Yeah, I think.
Well, who knows? Maybe they were on one of those old-timey carts where they were just passing with their
one of the
sticks and the
facts
big
that's
bandage.
not critical to the story.
Right, exactly. So disturbing the peace, guy steps in, chokehold, holds it for a little too long, man passes away. So insert problem here.
Yes, this is what you've seen throughout the headlines, the Jordan Neely story, Jordan Neely being the homeless man, and Daniel Penny, Daniel the ex-Marine who choked him out, and then Neely ended up passing away. Now, this is a TV ready-made dinner of a race-baiting storyline, if you've ever heard one, which is exactly why all the mainstream media mouthpieces are pushing it. And why, even though this happened, I think a week ago, we've delayed in touching it a little bit because we don't like to engage in the race baiting. But
we want to make sure it's consensual.
There are important social talking points about this situation because the mainstream narrative is white ex-Marine chokes out black homeless guy who was clearly going through a mental, whether it be breakdown.
I believe they call that a psychotic episode.
Yes, psychotic episode, something of the sort. And that this is just another example of white on black crime, and that whites are, out to take down black people, and that when in the rare instance that the white guy is caught, that he doesn't face justice or whatever, because now within the last 24 to 48 hours of when we're recording this episode, Daniel Penny, the ex-Marine, has now been arrested and is facing second-degree manslaughter charges. And that gets into an interesting discussion about the pro-Jordan Neely side and what those people want, because none of us can figure it out. Because it wasn't 5 minutes ago that the same people now protesting, shutting down subways in favor of Jordan Neely, saying, basically string up Daniel Penny, were the same people that were saying, defund the police, get rid of the police, blah, 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 right? Police are all terrible and bad. We have our own opinions on that, but we're just getting into what they say. Police are all bad. Okay, so police are all bad. We need to disarm the general population. Most of these people support gun control in some form or fashion. And now citizens are not even supposed to defend themselves with their bare hands. Now, again, I know by me classifying it as defense is going to be this terrible thing that I'm doing. But so I want to be clear about what the facts were. Jordan Neely was basically walking around the subway car, saying things that were indicative of him being unhinged, potentially having nothing to lose, and not being altogether uncomfortable with going to jail. He was saying things to the effect of, I'm hungry, I don't have anything, I'm tired of not having anything, I'm ready to go to jail, that would be better than, not having anything and all this kind of stuff. And although there's no evidence or indication that he physically struck another passenger, he was not threatening anybody with violence or whatever, when Daniel Penny came up and put him in a chokehold from behind, that's where people are going to say, well, Penny doesn't have a self-defense argument because he wasn't personally threatened and he wasn't protecting anybody else from Jordan Neely. Where the facts of all of that lie, the question still remains, is if the Jordan Neely side says no cops, no guns to defend yourself, no anything else, well, what happens? Do we just wait for the next Jordan Neely to act on his words of hopelessness and actually take them out on other people before you're allowed to do anything? And by then, might it be too late? Like, what is society supposed to do in this situation, David? I don't know what these people want. And by these people, I mean the anti-gun, the anti-police, the race-baiting crowd in general on the Jordan Neely side.
A long time ago. Longer now for some. The lyric in it was, nobody sees others' blood quite as well as their own. And the thing is it's kind of like that mayor of Portland that said this was going to be the summer of love and let Chaz be this new breed of society, a city growing up within one of the most, forward-thinking, liberal-minded cities in America.
Portland, Oregon.
Well, I knew that.
Yeah, I know you did. I just,
Okay.
Not every listener has been here since the days that we talked about Chaz. Oh, did you? Maybe you did.
I thought so. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. If I hadn't clarified. So he was all peace and love, even though within the first week of Chaz, they had already segregated themselves. And within the first 2 weeks of it, there had been multiple murders. He didn't really bat an eye. He's like, you know what? They'll figure it out. Until they started throwing Molotov cocktails on his yard. Then he says, we need to get these savages. Jesus Christ. So it's always really easy to say how great things are, to sit in your gated community and be like, you know what? This is systemic racism. How dare they do this? Well, why don't you give away all of your funds to help the community that you're so downtrodden? Oh, you won't do that? It's like when Billie Eilish came out and she was upset that she made so much money because now that she's been shot into this stratosphere of stardom and monetary affluency that she can't identify with her fans anymore. Well, I got a simple solution there, Billie. Just give all your money away. Just give it away. Just give it out. That'd help you get poor right with the rest of them. Now, so it's all moral platitudes that you don't really mean at the end of the day. You don't think or take the time to really ponder what you're saying actually means. So when you say defund the police, and then you have to go, well, we don't mean defund the police. We just mean like, don't let them do all, you've already lost. Defund the police means you're taking funds from the police. That's what you're saying. You can't backtrack and give a soft moral compass to it. You're saying that. You can't say Black Lives Matter, and if you say all lives matter, that you're racist. That's not right either. Like, you can't just make these hard lines and then can tiptoe your way back from it. You say words and they mean something. But to the Democratic Party that keeps trying to change what words mean each and every, well, let me just say, from the ruling class that just keeps trying to change means what words mean every day to suit whatever their agenda is at the current moment, that's when you start getting down into this moral or this societal decay where we don't know what reality is anymore. We don't know what self-defense is from murder. Like, I'm sure Neely was the person that was strangled, right?
Neely was strangled by Penny.
And unfortunately for Neely, I'm sure he was going through a tough time, and condolences and rest in peace. And for the Marine, you said they're so similar. Neely and Penny. Okay. They rhyme. So, and I'm sure Penny thought he was doing the right thing by protecting the passengers as a former Marine. He's like, I'll probably just put this guy to sleep and I'll roll him off. Problem solved. Move on about my day. Didn't think that he would, hold him. Much like the police officer that choked out the guy that was selling loose cigarettes at the train platform that got choked and said, "I can't breathe." Eric Garner, thank you. It's, I don't know. So when you move the dice around so much, it's like that coconut in the pearl game. Like find the pearl. Which coconut is on? Like there is no winning this game.
Yeah. Well, and what's going to happen? And like you said, they have their protest slogans, and words actually mean something. And I'm assuming, since the ones that do the protesting are so loud, it seems like their numbers are much more than they are. But maybe they'll get their way, absolutely policy-wise, in some jurisdiction around the country. What that jurisdiction is going to look like is this: little or no policing, nobody with guns except for criminals, because again, criminals don't care about the law. We beat that point to death, but they don't seem to care about that one. And any potential would-be Good Samaritan who sees somebody, whether having a psychotic break or some other motivation, beating the shit out of some, defenseless person, whether they be male, female, child, doesn't matter, is not going to step in, because they're going to be like, I don't want to be Daniel Penny. I don't want to accidentally kill. And again, maybe Penny did it on purpose. And again, let the jury of his peers decide. And it seems like they will. That is what it is. But if that's the society that you're looking for, I'll guarantee you it's going to be about 5 minutes that right after you get that jurisdiction set up exactly the way you want it, most of you are going to be leaving it, because
New York, California.
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening right on a mass scale, and all of your policies have not even been fully instituted. But still, the point is, like, you want a society of defenseless people who are the ones that are defenseless are the ones that wouldn't break the rules anyway. Right? And in favor of the ones who don't care what the rules are regardless, and think that that's somehow going to work out well for you. It's not. And so you're creating an entire society of unintentional cowards, in the sense that already most of the time, when a fight breaks out, right, it's this like world star mentality. People's first inclination is pull out your phone and film it. And now
don't do anything. Don't help any side, but just make sure you record.
If there's that rare one person in a crowd of 100 who would be willing to step in and break it up, and yes, sometimes that requires, physically restraining somebody, and sometimes that physical restraint might go too far and injure the person being restrained more than the restrainer wanted to in the first place. But that one person in 100 that might have existed before, you're now saying that person's not going to exist anymore, because every person that is aware of the Daniel Penny story is going to have that in the back of their mind. I'm not stepping in. This ain't my problem. He's not threatening me. He's not punching me. I can defend myself if he comes at me. I'm just staying out of it. You handle your own shit. So listen, either you all start taking self-defense classes, and I mean getting really good at it so you can defend yourself, or maybe walk back a bit on the political rhetoric that you want to regurgitate from your betters to divide and conquer the rest of us with this race baiting, anti-gun nonsense. Because that's really what it is. Your political betters, the ones that rule you, are forming these narratives for you, and you're just mindlessly regurgitating them, thinking you're some sort of, social justice warrior activist, fighting for justice and common decency. No, you're just a useful idiot that is playing right into the divide and conquer strategy that's keeping us all at each other's throats, instead of looking at them, the ones that are really causing the problems, the ones in power. And if we all came together and looked at them and realized they're the problem, then a lot of these societal issues that you complain about would be fixed.
And by the way, while you're feeling good about that, just remember, when the shit does inevitably hit the fan, they're still going to have their guns.
Absolutely.
But you won't.
Absolutely.
So anyway, on a lighter note, Epstein didn't kill himself. Hide your kids, hide your wife. So apparently Biden came out and gave a speech that said that your children aren't your children. They're our children. They're the country's children. Dane, how do you feel about that?
Every time I think I couldn't possibly hate Biden anymore, he opens his mouth.
I mean, it's fun. He's a little lovable when he's like lost on stage. Yeah, he tries to shake the Easter Bunny's hand. The Easter Bunny like, get the fuck off stage. Like, it's lovable kind of, but at the same time, you're like, probably shouldn't let Grandpa drive the car home from dinner.
Yeah.
let alone run the free world. But anyway, Dane.
So it's a quick, 10, 11-second clip. Biden, I don't know who he was talking to. It seems, based on the context, that it was some sort of like teachers union event or something, because it was very like pro-teacher this, teacher that, whatever. But he is quoting somebody else, this woman named Barbara. I don't know who. Doesn't really matter.
You would know if you could enunciate her fucking name.
Doesn't really matter, because he is sharing her quote in obviously a confirmatory way, indicating that he shares what the sentiment that I'm getting ready to play for you.
Ooh.
And
can't wait. Ooh.
And this is really just kind of indicative of how the state views you, and more importantly, your children. So let's hear what Joe has to say about your children and who they belong to.
Rebecca put a teacher's creed into words when she said, "There's no such thing as someone else's child. No such thing as someone else's child. Our nation's children are all our children."
Oh, Riri.
Sorry, Rebecca, not Barbara.
Barbara.
Sounds similar. So first of all, Biden talking anything that has to do with who children belong to, as the president, the sniffer in chief, that's disturbing in and of itself. But this idea that he, as the figurehead of the U.S. regime, not only saying that there's no such, the nation's children are all our children. That's some serious, what was it? Is it Plato that wrote the Republic? Yeah, that's what Plato argued for in the Republic, is that all children should be wards of the state, and that's what's best for society. So this is not some new concept. Like, this has been talked about for a long time. But the fact that any politician, for any reason whatsoever, would suggest that any one child, let alone an entire nation of children, belong to the nation, which again is really just a euphemism for belonging to them, because they rule the nation, right? What they say goes. They're the dictators. Should have the hair on the back of your neck standing up. And if it doesn't, maybe you should give your children up for adoption, because you're not fit to parent.
Well, unless you've been living under a rock for the past 5 years, the curriculum in schools is starting to change too, to where they're literally, I saw mayor of a city, I wish I could pull it up right now. He went to the school board and said, I heard, or I've seen and have evidence of you handing out literal pornography to a first grade class, and basically surmised it by saying, you guys have two options. Either you all step down from your positions immediately, or you'll be indicted. And then he walked off. There's been parents at school boards. And before you go, oh, white parents? No. White, African-American, Hispanic, multiple different races, saying you are teaching critical race to my kid and making him either feel bad or making other children feel bad about their race. And that's not right either. They're trying, and then also, not to mention, Florida, the state that we live in, had to put in a bill that they demonized and called the Don't Say Gay bill, when really the whole point of the bill was to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't teach kindergartners that you can grow up and want to suck a dick if you're a boy. Maybe you want to scissor me timbers with a lesbian. That's totally cool. Maybe you should mutilate your genitals or cut your boobs off when you get older. Maybe save that until, or maybe let that be discussed in the household. These are all concepts that are usually discussed by the parent to the child, because they understand the child better than the teacher ever could, even though I know there's some teachers out there that love to think that they're closer to the children than their parents are. I get it. You're not. Fuck off. Anyway, what the true education comes from within the home. You guys teach the 3 R's: math, or reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? That's the 3 R's.
Writing is W.
Well, you get it. You get it. So math, arithmetic is A, technically.
Yeah.
So anyway, you guys teach that shit. We'll teach our children the values that we wish to bestow upon them. But what old Sleepy Joe over there is saying, like, no, we'll teach your kids. And let's just take his track record. He's got Hunter. Biden. Yeah. We'll only attack him because that's the only one that's in hot water right now. What's going on with him?
Yeah, he's not doing good. He seems to have suffered
Seems to
through
be
some sort of childhood trauma. I'm not an expert.
He's playing
You know,
life
but-
pretty fast and pretty loose right now. Now, it
Yeah.
looks like fun, probably not so much on that back end. But anyway, all that being said is get your hands off my kid.
Yeah, and as somebody who is a recent father of just a couple weeks now, the same opinion that I have now as an actual father I had even previously when all I had was nieces and nephews is statements like that are highly, highly personal, and I take them as such from Biden or any politician who would suggest that they have any right to instill whatever values they deem socially redeemable into my children. No, they are my children. My daughter is my child. And if you get your little liver spotted hands anywhere near her, you're going to draw back a stump. And I think that is a very just healthy,
Biological, for God's sake. It's biological.
Yeah, it's a very healthy parental instinct because, not only would this be true of any stranger that I don't know, because I don't know what they're capable of or what their intentions are or whatever, it's doubly true of politicians who you know exactly who they are and what their intentions are, which is your child is nothing but a number. They will be used and abused until they're no longer useful, whether that be through financial resources, through their labor, sending them off to war, whatever the case may be. Politicians that treat humans like disposable objects are not anybody that should be getting anywhere near children, let alone instilling values and everything else into them like that. So,
what values do politicians have?
So
other than money.
Yeah. And lust for power. So Biden saying this, I know this is the most obvious Epstein moment of all Epstein moments in the history of the Epstein segment, is that this is not the first time. Hitler had the Hitler Youth. Stalin had the I'm going to mispronounce this, Komsomol, which was basically just a communist youth program in Russia. Mao's Cultural Revolution was primarily predominated by the youth. And like I said, all the way back to Plato, writing the Republic, he argued that children should be all wards of the state. This is a time immemorial that, and I'm not lumping Plato into the same group of tyrants as these other obvious tyrants, but that's what tyrants want. There's an old, I think, Jesuit saying something like, "Give me the boy before the age of 7 and I'll show you the man," right? Children are not a blank slate in the classical sense that we can write on them whatever we want, but from a values, from a morals perspective, they very much are. And what they deem as good and right in the world and what their own personal motivation should be, like, should I do the right thing or should I do what's personally convenient? Or should, those kinds of tough decisions that, face all of us as human beings. Tyrants all throughout history have always wanted to align those values into whatever continues to give them power or to make their power stronger. Period, full stop. Biden is no different than these other tyrants throughout history that did it. Just because we like to deceive ourselves and tell ourselves that, oh, well, in the West, we're not like that and we're a modern democracy and we have checks and balances, and that's all bullshit. So when Biden says shit like this, take him at his word, treat him like the enemy to your personal family. Forget the abstract concept of the nation. Treat him as an enemy to you. What would you do to that enemy if he showed up on your doorstep and said, "Give me your child"? What would you do? That's the way that people like him need to be treated when they say stuff like that, because their intentions have been made very clear to you and they don't intend on changing anytime soon.
Well, as if, as you called it before, an indoctrination camp. That's basically what it is. It's just another vector of control. And that's what government loves. It loves control. It loves to control what you think. It loves to control what you do. It loves to control what you can say. It is going down the rabbit hole. It's the 1984 rabbit hole. Eventually you can do less and less and less, and then they're watching you all the time, and you have to turn on your TV, and even your TV watches you as you watch it. So anyway, all that being said, is if we can't even protect our children, that won't get you off your couch and get you moving forward, then I guess nothing will.
Yeah.
So what's that old saying? The son will pay for the sins of the father. Don't let him pay too much, or her, or it, whatever it decides to be at the appropriate given time.
Or the opposite, the corollary kind of age-old adage to the one's sons and sins of the father that David just said is like, a society grows great when men plant trees under whose shade they know they will never sit. If you choose not to confront this enemy in your time, your kids will face it at some point in the future. So if you choose not to stand up and give a resounding no and say, no, you don't own my kids. The nation's children are not your children. My child is my child. Your child is your child. I'm going to raise them how I see fit. You do the same, and we'll let them compete in the marketplace of ideas and in the marketplace in general. And, they'll succeed or fail based on the values that we instilled in them. That's as simple as it gets. If you choose not to plant that particular tree of standing up to this tyranny in your home, then your children are going to have to fight that fight, or your grandchildren or somebody. So plant that tree so that your children don't have to fight that fight later.
That being said, what a tumultuous person you truly are there, Elon. Only to climb into your head for 2 days, 2 hours, 2 minutes. Either one would probably cause immediate onset insanity.
An agent of chaos that would make the Joker blush.
Yes, I'm telling you, if the Joker had Elon's budget, he'd at least taken Gotham. I'll tell you that much, if not the world. So anyway, so Elon decided that he was going to, while he had the liberal beehive a swarming and all confused and all different directions, he decided to appoint one of their own to the CEO position of Twitter.
Yes. Elon announced either today or yesterday, and today is May 12th, 2023. I forget, I think it was today, maybe yesterday, that Linda Yaccarino as the new CEO of Twitter. And he says that she's going to do like the business side of it, and he's going to work on like future tech and all that kind of stuff. But her background and her affiliations immediately started spreading around the internet as to why would Elon appoint this person to that position, CEO of Twitter. She is a former NBC Universal executive, NBC as one of the handful of legacy media, regime mouthpieces that we rail against in this podcast all the time. She's a board member on the World Economic Forum. And all throughout COVID, she both made personal videos and, wrote articles and stuff like that, and teamed up with other groups as part of campaigns to, push masking, to push the medical procedure that she didn't want and many didn't want to have an option not to take. That's who she is. And again, kind of like what we were talking about with Biden in the last segment, people will tell you and show you who they are. Take them at their word. So Elon, being the free speech at all costs, I think he referred to himself at one point as a free speech absolutist. Why would you appoint somebody to the position of CEO with those ties in particular? And I'm sure if she didn't, it'll come out at some point if she did, pushed for, all of these disinformation campaigns around, the C word that happened for the last couple of years. I'm sure she was on board with all of that. All of the house cleaning that Elon did at Twitter, she's now bringing a fox right back into the hen house. Somebody make sense of it. Make it make sense, Elon.
He's an agent of chaos.
He is.
I swear to God, if he came out with like black eyeliner and fucking white face paint and lipstick on, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I guess the only thing I'll say is he's not usually totally wrong. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt for now. But if Twitter becomes the hellscape that it was before Tribel was the oasis that it is, I guess he would have been wrong again. But again, I don't know. He hasn't He hasn't crashed the plane into the mountain yet, so I guess I'll give him every inch of rope that we possibly can. But it does seem kind of counterintuitive to fight the left off, and after they demonized you and made you look like Satan himself and called you a Nazi and said that you were just this side of Satan himself, to put one of the forefront members of the people that you was the type of person that you bought Twitter to protect Twitter from. You literally bought Twitter to get everyone that she represents out of Twitter. Yeah. Only to go and put her at the helm of Twitter, basically putting Twitter back into the hands of the people you just bought it from.
Right.
Make it make sense, Elon.
Now, I'll give, I guess, best case scenario for Elon.
Maybe she's changed her ways.
I mean,
maybe she's seen the light.
Possibly. But
people change.
We'll see. One possible explanation is because I did see an interview that she did with him not too long ago, and she seems to be very focused on advertisers. And obviously, advertisers are the lifeblood of social media sites, for better or worse, until Web3 comes along and the users can actually support the content that they find valuable. And it doesn't have to come from big money advertisers. But that is the paradigm that we currently live under. That is the way that Twitter operates. And that is the way that this venture is going to be profitable for Elon in the short run. So if she is able to, even if she doesn't fully change into a 180, if she is able to compartmentalize her apparent, desires to be a control freak of all of society, right? That's what happens when you join the WEF. If she's able to compartmentalize that from the cold, hard business of how do I get advertisers to come back to the platform, because it is true that some advertisers have been turned off by Twitter, by Elon's, what they deem as his erratic behavior. Maybe that could be why he hired her, is basically like an olive branch to the, big businesses that would advertise on Twitter, and he needs that. Okay, I guess as far as that goes, but do we really think that Yaccarino is the only person that's capable of bringing back advertisers? Is there not somebody that's like a more I
heard there's a former marketing director for Bud Light that's looking for a job.
Yeah,
maybe we should get her on.
She would fit right in.
Maybe yeah, exactly.
But I'm just throwing this out there. And again, this isn't something that I haven't seen this name tossed around anywhere else, but just as an example, right? So John Mackey, the guy that started and built Whole Foods. Now, again, David and I would be happy with that because John Mackey is a maybe he has called himself libertarian. I don't know, but he's very libertarian, both in his philosophy. He's written books on, how the market should be, stakeholder capitalism and all that kind of stuff. And he's very libertarian in his approach to the purpose of the market is for me to outcompete my competitors by providing a superior good or service, right? That's what Mackey's vision is. So not that Mackey would accept the position or that Elon should have offered it to him or whatever, but what I'm saying is people like Mackey exist. People that don't have an ideological axe to grind like Yaccarino does apparently, and are just, if you're talking about the cold business savvy of how do I get advertisers to come back, somebody like John Mackey exists. There are people out there that could have filled that role. So why her? Why somebody that is a board member of the World Economic Forum? Why? Why somebody who probably pushed the same anti-disinformation campaigns that were run amok all throughout Twitter that you've spent the last several months of the Twitter files, shedding the light on it to disinfect that at Twitter? Why that person? So, even if it is just a cold, hard, a cold calculated business decision on Elon's point, it still doesn't even stand up for why he would pick her. He's going to have a space call with her on in the next few days where people can call in and ask them anything. And I'm sure these questions are going to come up. So he's going to explain more. But it really does boggle the mind. I likened it to the whole Trump thing where like people hated him throughout his entire campaign, and then he put those same people in his administration. It's shooting yourself on the foot to a proportion that just makes no sense at all. And that seems to be what Elon's doing. But again, Maybe he's playing 40 chess. Maybe he's some super genius. Maybe I just don't get it, but I don't know. I don't see it.
Do something to completely throw away the billions upon billions that he spent to acquire Twitter. He's got to have a plan somewhere. That's why I'm going to reserve judgment and say maybe he hasn't lost it. Maybe he's not gone off the deep end yet.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I wish his plan involved something other than a WEF board member, maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe I'm asking too much of the free speech absolutists.
They will own nothing and like it. They will eat the bugs and pick the crickets from their teeth.
So, yeah.
That's Klaus Schwab, by the way.
Yes, that is definitely Klaus.
Just for clarification. That was not the new CEO of Twitter, but she rubs elbows with him, so
yeah,
beware.
So listen, we never bought Twitter Blue for our podcast account.
Would we even be verified?
Yeah, we would.
With all 10 of our followers?
The $8.
Well, yeah, that's like buying validation.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Because it increases reach and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so I do want our stuff to get out in front of more eyeballs.
It's a profit thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I have no problem.
That takes the pressure off.
Paying for something that is going to increase our
that you get a return upon investment?
Yeah.
An actual ROI?
Yeah. So we never did, but I am seeing a lot of big accounts some that either had the free blue checkmark before and paid to keep it after because they supported what Elon was doing. And some that never had it, but bought it, because they supported what Elon was doing. Many of them are saying, listen, I'm not paying for this anymore. I'm not they're voting with their dollars because they're incensed by this hire, and I can't blame them. And again, maybe, obviously Elon's doing the cost benefit analysis. If she can bring in all these advertiser dollars, who cares how many Twitter Blue users I lose? Again, fine. But again, this world's got 8 billion people on it. She's the only person who can reach out to advertisers. Again, I'm beating a dead horse. I'm not going into it anymore. As David said, we will reserve judgment and wait and see.
And Elon, we trust.
I got to say, this is in my view, a big step back for Elon in terms of his words being all flowery and free speech absolutist and all that being as great as it is. Judge them by their works. And this is a very, very poor work, Elon. Very poor.
From where we stand right now.
Give it an F.
From where we stand right now. Maybe he'll turn it around. Oh, I don't think we hit 30 minutes, but I think we came pretty close.
Not even.
Damn it. Anyway, with all that being said, Dane, where can they find this 145 episode?
Find us at wmdpodcast.com/145. They can get the audio only on any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. You can get the video on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. Please, please, please follow us on all 3 of those platforms, especially Rumble and Odyssey, because those are growing, which is great to hear. But those ones will not cancel us. And if we ever have to self-censor to stay on YouTube, we don't do it on those other 2. So follow, like, subscribe, and share.
And if we ever have to start selling ourselves, it's onlyfans.com/WMD podcast.
We don't have any of that yet, but let's hope it doesn't come to that for all our sakes. And then you can also link up with us on our other socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can get in the private members only Facebook page at $5 a month of support. Just go to the website, support our work tab, go look at your options. And like I said, $5 or more, you send us the request on Facebook. We make sure that the name matches who we're getting paid by, and we let you in the group. That's simple. And then you can also link up with us on Tribel and Float. Yes, last thing, email list, wmdpodcast.com homepage. Join that email list. That's the best place to always stay in contact with the podcast. And that's it. We'll see you next week on 146.
Until then, ladies and gents, stay safe. More importantly, stay free.